We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the NFL 2020 season preview on the Sports Box. I am Brian Attard, along with two faces I'm sure all of you have become very familiar with over the past couple of months. Tony Quigley, Brandon Gazzara, how are you guys tonight?
Doing wonderful, Mr. Attard. How are you doing?
Can't complain. Never had a bad day in my life, thankfully. Jason Garrett's no longer coaching the Cowboys. Brian Hess will be on in a little while. Ryan Havermehl will join us as well as we go through 10 burning questions. As guys, season kicks off tomorrow. We probably had some doubts as to if this actually was going to happen throughout the course of this 2020 that we're living in, but we're less than 24 hours away from kickoff. Just what's the juice like right now?
The juice. That's a great question. Listen, first of all, too much money involved in the NFL to worry about them not playing. I never had a doubt that they were playing. I mean, that's what makes the world go around, right?
Money talk.
I agree. Death, taxes, NFL football. I never had a doubt.
But the one thing about the NFL that I think is the big difference between the other three sports, we've mentioned this as we've kind of gone through this as a team, from COVID to now, is that the NFL can be extremely profitable and is extremely profitable without live attendance. And it's not something that hockey can do, that baseball can do. Basketball also has a decent TV deal. But if you really think about it, the money in football is in TV. So as long as they've got this there, they're going to be just fine. They make a lot of money from TV. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised, depending what happens with college, maybe you see a couple games shifted to Saturday. If there's openings there, it really wouldn't shock me whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL did a really good job at broadcasting, setting up broadcasting, things like the red zone, and there's all this instant gratification with stats and everything that you really don't get too much in a game. Fantasy football really impacts everything. So everybody's cheering for every different team. Tailgating and all that kind of stuff is really fun, but, the presentation and the accessibility that you get through the TV product, the NFL really did a great job.
Yeah.
Ryan Havermehl to the show, representing the Packers.
What's going on, boys? I'm also
How are
watching the
you?
game. I'm also watching the last 2 minutes of the game, so forgive me.
Oh, the hockey game?
Yeah, real important to me.
What?
I was going to say the second period about to kick off.
Yeah.
Then it's 1-1.
But to your point, though, hockey is a sport, and a few of us aren't a huge fan of hockey, but it's a sport. It's much better presentation live. I mean, the product is so much better as live than it is actually when you compare it to NFL. NFL product might actually be better on TV.
That's fair.
Yeah, hockey is so much better live than it is. On TV, it's borderline unwatchable. Unless it's the playoffs, and even certain playoff games have been unwatchable. Live hockey is awesome.
Brandon, you went to your first hockey game recently.
It was like my fourth hockey game. First Rangers game is, and who won that game? Just out of curiosity.
I think the Flyers won, but the Rangers got a ball that says they're picking first. That's really all that matters. Ryan Leach, one of our Bills fans, he'll be the states that allows fans compared to the ones that won't. Goodell was never going to cancel the season, and we obviously agree with that. So we've got our 10 burning questions that we want to go through because, again, there's a lot of storylines around the league right now. The fact that we're playing is great, but obviously there's a lot to talk about. So given the news of the day, obviously, we'll start with this. There's been a lot of money that's been thrown around this offseason. Of the big money that was thrown around, what deal do you think was the best? What deal do you think was the worst? And I will kick it off to Mr. Quigley to kick that off.
On me?
You go right ahead.
Best deal. Wow. Whatever they gave to Tom Brady to get him down in Tampa Bay. First of all, Tampa, he's always been a bargain quarterback. He's the greatest of all time. Just the jersey sales alone and that kind of ancillary stuff, it makes it worth it. So Brady to Tampa Bay. I mean, we're actually talking about Tampa Bay and not as a laughing stock for the first time in a while. So I think Brady to Tampa is definitely the best contract, no matter the worst contracts. NFL contracts get bad very quick because there's not the guaranteed money that there should be in them. Jalen Ramsey's contract that he signed the other day, for such a great player that he is, he might be actually worth the money to an extent that he's probably better than the guys like Slay and who's the kid left, Brandon Jones, that left Dallas for money if you look at dollar for dollar. But if the Rams signed him immediately after they traded him, they'd be paying them, in the same range as Slay's getting paid now. So I think they really dropped the ball on that one.
Brandon?
Yeah, well, my obvious choice would be Tom Brady for best contract, but I'll go with Patrick Mahomes just to be different because reigning Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, previous season MVP. He's the best player in the NFL currently. So, Chiefs get him locked up. That's the best contract. And the worst to me is Byron Jones, a guy who has 2 career interceptions, getting $82.5 million, $54.375 million guaranteed. I think the Dolphins really overpaid, and I think he's going to struggle there.
To be honest with you, I'm not even sure if there's another guy that comes close. If you're asking for best, it's Tom Brady for the best contract. Like Quig said, the fact that the Bucs were able to get him down there with the weapons that the Buccaneers already have is a no-brainer, the best signing. And I also have to go the same thing. We talked about it earlier, Brian. I think that Ramsey deal is one of the worst deals in maybe NFL history right now. Not saying Jalen Ramsey isn't worth the money, which, that's on the border too for me. He's a corner. $21 million a year for a corner when you've already given up all those picks. You've already proven that you're not that good a team. You have holes on the offensive line. You have holes starting to take place or take shape, I should say, with your wide receivers core and your running back. Just a head scratcher. Makes no sense.
Hav, I know you'll relate to this one. You know what the Jalen Ramsey signing kind of reminds me of? Listen, I think Jalen Ramsey is a phenomenal cornerback. The rules, maybe he's, with these rules and stuff like that as they're now, cornerback is a very tough position. Just ask Nick Casario. But this signing reminds me a lot of what the Sixers did with Tobias Harris, if you want to cross sports. They gave up
good player
picks for him. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And now, you have to sign. You almost, the gun to your head, you have to re-sign them, and you don't have very little leverage. So this kind of reminds me similar to that kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think I talk about Tobias Harris with people all the time who say he stinks. The guy doesn't stink. If you say he stinks, you just like to say, Quake, you have a low basketball IQ. You don't know what you're talking about. Now, if you want to tell me that he's being paid too much to do what he does, I'll listen to you because you're right. But don't tell me the guy stinks. In the same respect, when your team stinks, you don't want to dump all that money into a corner on the defense on D. I don't understand it at all. I don't get it.
Well, yeah, and I think again, we talked about this earlier today. Is you give up 2 ones, actually more than 2 ones to bring him in last year. You go all in, don't even make the playoffs. You kind of force your hand here. Now, I've been saying all off season long, as you guys watch the show, they should be calling Tampa Bay and trying to get a 1 from Tampa for Jalen Ramsey because
probably could get it.
You get that 1 back. You get one of the ones you gave up, and it's kind of okay at that point. So
and Tampa's all in right now. You could give. Tampa's going to listen to anybody and anything. Anywhere they have a hole, they'll listen right now. It's they know, what do they have? 2 years with Tom at most. Mm-hmm. He's not going to re-sign, and let's face it, he's going to be 48 years old by then. He's not playing anymore after that. He's done. So they have that 2-year window, and they're clearly going for it. So, we talked about it. That's what I would do. Just to be a little different, the best deal to me, for the money, is I think George Kittle's deal, 5 for $75 with the Niners, is fantastic because really he's such a big part of their offense. And I think I know that, Gronk kind of changed the position. But I think we're moving more and more into now where teams are putting a lot more resource and emphasis into the tight end position, maybe compared to how much wide receivers are getting. They want to get that tight end as well. And he's very, very important to that offense. So I don't really mind him getting $15 million a year. I think that's fine. I have no issue with that. The worst deal to me still, I think, is Amari Cooper making 5 for $100. Now I know they can get out of it. It's not going to be an easy out. The problem,
the problem that I have with it now is the precedent that it sets, because you just put a high pick into CeeDee Lamb. He's going to want that money when he's going to come due for a contract. If Michael Gallup's going to come back, he's going to want some decent money to come back for a contract. And you've shown a propensity that you will give a large contract to a receiver. But similarly to Ramsey, they put a 1 into him to get him, so you kind of have to validate the cost.
Yep.
You can't just walk away from it. So again, they kind of tie their own hands when they spend so much in trade to get these guys.
When I first read this question, I thought Brian's answer to the worst contract was going to be whatever they paid Dak.
Well, he hasn't
Or
signed
whatever
that.
they paid any running back.
or a running back.
Right. Any running back getting any money.
All right, but if you look at their running back deals, right? I actually, from a relative standpoint, I think they're all terrible. From a relative standpoint, I mean, what are you going to complain about McCaffrey's money in Carolina? Who else do they pay? And they have nobody else to pay, and he's their entire offense.
Plus, David
Exactly.
Pepper has more money than you could, have to worry about. Go pay somebody, sell
And
jerseys.
Derrick Henry got a below market deal, in my opinion. I mean, I wouldn't have signed it either personally, but comparatively, I think we all thought it'd be more. So
Yeah. And then you got Joe Mixon, who got what, $12 million a year?
448. Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's really not a bad deal.
When you start comparing them, yeah, it's
It's
really-
healthy, right.
For the next 4 years, would you rather have Joe Mixon or Derrick Henry?
Joe Mixon,
Joe Mixon.
more complete back, more.
I think,
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because I mean,
Henry doesn't catch the ball.
no. And
He's improved in that aspect of it, but that offense completely changed now, where they don't really have that. They're not looking for that Deion Lewis type. I mean, it's the first time in a long time then that Henry's actually been in a power running downhill offense. I think me and Hoppermill had to talk about that before. Whether it was the Tannehill or Henry thing, but but he's a bruising back, and I think he'll be okay. But long term,
I like Mixon a lot better too. And if you're talking long term, I mean, maybe just for 1 year, I'll take Henry, but not for a contract in 3-4 years down the road.
I mean, listen, Joe Mixon was a right hook away from being a first-round draft pick. Let's not forget that.
Right. That's true. That's true.
A couple of comments coming in. Sean Spellman says the worst deal was what happened with Ramsey. And again, I think we all agree with that. It is a lot of money.
Oh, man, what's up, buddy?
I love Jalen Ramsey, but that is a lot of money for a corner.
Too much
And the market that it sets is going to be a problem.
Yep.
Eagles bowing down to Jason Peters, getting more money to go to left tackle. You're dumb if you didn't give him money. I mean, Brandon, as the Eagle fan, do you think they did that?
I mean, I think it would be reported. I mean, everything that goes on with the Eagles seems to be brought out. So
My bigger problem with
can't
that is Jason
imagine-
Peters stinks.
I can't
Right?
imagine that they would be giving Jason Peters more money and that we wouldn't know about it. I just find that hard to believe. Maybe they will. I mean, there's still a
violation
few
of
days
the
until the
rule.
first game, but
Yeah. It's a violation of league rules that they're giving them money and it's not reported on the contract.
Right.
yeah.
It does. It's a reality, but does Peters stink worse than anybody they have now to break up that line though, Hoff?
Well,
That's
that's,
how bad the
true.
line is.
That's true. That line is that bad. But I mean, Jason Peters tried to play tackle last year, and he was terrible. Then he got hurt. He just wasn't good.
He wasn't terrible. I mean, I think he was rated the 10th best. I don't know if he was that, and I don't know if he was that good. I think that was a little bit based on reputation, a little bit, but he was solid. He just has a tendency to miss some games at this point in his career.
I'm going to try
Right.
something.
But for the $3 million price tag, him at left tackle replacing Andre Dillard, if you think of it that way,
$3
that's
million
a
is
great
great.
deal.
Yeah, $3 million is fine. But I mean, if they did give him more money? What do you give a guy to play left tackle?
I
It
mean,
could be.
I think he deserves it really too. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
if you're going to have him play such an important position like that, they for them to bump it up. The
That's
other
true.
question, Dillard was going to fail this year anyway. He's going to be a bust. So,
Brian Hess, welcome to the show. We're still in question one, so I will give you the floor here. We pretty much, the question is, of the big money contracts that went out this offseason, what was the best, what was the worst?
Well, I'll start out with the worst right now. It just happened today was Jalen Ramsey. I mean, you're throwing bad money at a bad trade. You give up 2 ones to get Jalen Ramsey in there. If you're the Rams, who are definitely on the downslope, right? A year and a half removed from Super Bowl run, but that they've been throwing money around like it's water. And for me, I mean, I guess you kind of had to give Jalen Ramsey a new deal because you traded 2 ones to get him. But I mean,
Yeah.
that is a lot of money and a lot of years, even for a younger guy. I mean, but he's going to start losing a step here. But as far as the best deal, I'm going to say Houston's for Deshaun Watson because you trade Hopkins away, you make these ridiculous trades. You needed something good, and obviously Deshaun Watson, the only star left in Houston now on the offensive side, really. So to lock him up is a big deal and a good move.
But Hess, do you think that contract makes the Texans better, or it just gives them marketability and star power, kind of like McCaffrey in Carolina? Because I don't think the team did anything for the team to get better.
No, I mean, you make a great point. It is a lot to do with marketability and keeping your fans happy and having a face to that franchise. But as far as making the team better, I mean, the trades that they did beforehand kind of ruined any sense of that. So if you want to be competitive at all, you had to lock Watson up.
Cue the Will Smith meme of him standing in a room by himself.
I didn't get that one. Yeah, I should have got that one beforehand.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think the bigger problem too is, guys, and we talk about this. I mean, you said it today. Look at what Ramsey just got. What's that mean for Jair Alexander? What's it for all these guys?
Right. It essentially prices the Packers out of being able to re-sign him. I mean, that's 2 years down the next. That's after this year, but they're not going to give him $21 million a year. It's just that's not what that franchise does. Even they're talking the Aaron Jones extension. I can guarantee you right now, unless Aaron Jones is willing to take between 10 and maybe 12 million with incentives, he's not going to re-sign. He's not going to sign that contract in Green Bay because they're not going to give him the money. The only people they really truly pay are young defensive ends and tackles and quarterbacks. It was Reggie White, it's Kenny Clark, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's Brett Favre. That's what they did.
I mean, the quarterback position for the state of the game, it almost seems like it's devalued a little bit, and yet they're still giving Ramsey a ton of money. I mean, Dallas' secondary was horrible last year, and they they had no even inkling to signing Jones back. So it's like they're not they're rather throw some young talented guys out there.
Yeah, and the way that the defenses are being run now, you're throwing 5, 6, 7 guys in the secondary out there now. So what really a number one corner for $20 million? I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, I mean, and they just got done, getting themselves out of these deals with Gurley and with Cook. So they have some experience in paying a lot of money.
Bad contracts.
They need for it.
They have bad contract experience.
Oh my God. Let's see. Justin, the best contract was Hopkins in Arizona. Imagine Kyler Murray. The worst with Tampa Bay's running backs. Well, I mean, I don't think that they're not giving Ford a whole lot of money.
If you look at it, the comment that just came in too in regards to Hopkins, they're saying Hopkins is the worst contract.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, yes, I know Mike's also a Texans fan, so I think he does need to. I don't know. Again, if the money's there, it's a lot of money, absolutely. But I don't think Houston's better today than they were at the end of the season, which we'll touch on. I might have thought about giving them some more money and figuring it out. Right? I don't know. That's moving on to burning question number 2. There are 5 new head coaches in the NFL this year. Matt Rule in Carolina, Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland, Mike McCarthy in Dallas, Joe Judge for the Giants, and Ron Rivera for the Washington football team, which is who do you think has the most success, and who do you think doesn't? I'll kind of add that. Brandon, I'll start with you.
Most success, I think it's Mike McCarthy. He has the best roster. Mike McCarthy in his career has a better winning percentage and the same number of Super Bowls as guys like Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, and John Harbaugh. So he wins games. Now, he did that with Aaron Rodgers, but those guys also have great quarterbacks. So now he has Dak. But with that roster, I think the Cowboys are a playoff team. And I think compared to the other coaches, McCarthy has a successful tenure in Dallas. And the worst hire, I mean, I think Stefanski has success, but Joe Judge, the Giants so far. Seems to be running that team like Bill Belichick. It's kind of tough to be Bill Belichick when you don't have a pedigree of winning on your own. And we haven't seen that work yet. So I would say Joe Judge will have the least success.
Pass.
Yeah,
You're watching the game
gotta
too,
be
Hess.
McCar-
I know you are.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is McCarthy, and I completely agree with Brandon on why he's going to be successful. But for me, I just wanted to touch on Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland because I think he's going to take the dysfunction that Freddie Kitchens had last year and really gather the troops here, stick to a game plan, running the ball, defense. I think Stefanski's going to do good. The Browns, I have them just missing the playoffs at 9-7. So I like what Stefanski's going to do in Cleveland. Worst coaching hire, I think, is also, I'm going to agree with Brandon here, is Joe Judge. Listen, everybody wants to pick from the Bill Belichick tree. I get it. But you had other top-notch assistants that were much more deserving. Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City definitely comes to mind. I thought that he would have been a great fit in New York to kind of move Saquon Barkley along in his career, get that running game going. He's been learning under Andy Reid. He's been learning the offense, calling plays. Last guy that was calling plays under Andy Reid was Doug Peterson, who, say what you want about him, but he won a Super Bowl. So Joe Judge was a ridiculous hire for me. And even though I think the Giants' offense is going to be kind of good, I don't like their defense even a little bit. And I think they're going to be in the 6-7 win range.
Hav.
McCarthy's the answer, the only right answer for the most success. Least success, and it's not because he's not a good coach. It's Ron Rivera. And that's just because the Washington football team is absolutely terrible. They have – I was one of the guys who thought Dwayne Haskins was going to be good. He looked worse than lost last year, like embarrassingly lost. I don't know if you can ever get him out of that. Maybe Alex Smith comes back and gives you a year or whatever it is. That's a very bad team. That's a bad team, man.
Did you see Haskins camp clips throwing next to Alex Smith, killing people on the sideline?
I didn't. I did. I don't doubt it though. He's bad.
And to be honest, listen, I don't see Alex Smith playing football again. If you look at that leg, that leg does not look like a healthy leg. As I'm sitting here with a torn Achilles, but my leg might look better than his right now. It does not look healthy. It's a great story, and I'm pulling for him, but man, oh man.
And I think we're all go ahead.
Double overtime. Let's go.
Just
I'm watching the stream on my laptop here. No spoilers, all right?
I got my basketball guys on tonight, so definitely interesting. It's obviously Mike McCarthy because he's walking into the best situation possible. Teams like the Cowboys rosters like the Cowboys don't normally make coaching changes, but this has been one that's been a decade in the making. I'm pretty happy about it, frankly. So he has the best roster to work with of anybody, and they're set up to win now, and they expect to win now. My worst hire, and I don't necessarily know if it's fair to him. For me, I think it's Kevin Stefanski. Here's a list of Chris Jericho reading all of the Browns coaches that they've had since they came back to the league in 1999. There have been 12 people, 12 human beings have coached a game for the Browns since 1999. That's insane. Like you are just another brick in the wall. Like you are the next guy who's going to be terrible because they never get the right guy there. So I'm going to assume that they didn't get the right guy again because they have a tendency to not do that. So to me, I think he's the worst hire because he went to freaking Cleveland. And Joe Judge,
right.
I agree. That's going to be a problem. But to me, I have no faith in Kevin Stefanski to turn the Browns around. Frankly, as other Browns.
I think the roster is too good for him to be an utter disaster like Freddie Kitchens.
We thought that about Kitchens, though.
Yeah, but no, Kitchens was the dumpster fire from the start, and he didn't know what he was doing. Stefanski, I think, will bring some discipline to Baker Mayfield and at least settle the ship and get the most of what he can from Baker.
Listen, I'm not going to dump on him because it's the Cleveland environment. I think Stefanski can either be I think he's. Let's take Mike McCarthy out of it. I think he might even be the best hire because it's a complete cultural change out there.
Agreed.
He switched to a power running game. He's limiting Mayfield's options. You know, he has success in that offense like that. So, I think if anybody's going to be successful in Cleveland, Stefanski has he has a game plan. If you look at the guys before him, they didn't have game plans. It was kind of like, Baker Mayfield running around like a clown, Odell doing his thing. Happy because they wanted a regular season game kind of bullshit. I think Stefanski could actually, right the ship a little bit. Plus, there's not many there's not a whole lot of expectation in Cleveland. He hasn't followed anybody has actually had any kind of success. So I actually like the Stefanski hire. They did sign Kareem Hunt, so they're committed to the power running game, and in that AFC North, they're going to need it. So defense first. Worst hire. Got to go Joe Judge. I think that's, in my opinion, completely inexperienced. Nobody from Belichick's crew that I can remember has really done anything in the NFL except be a letdown. From friggin' Charlie Weiss to fucking to the next person, but it's a successful program and they get hired out of it just like anything else. So I think Joe Judge was a huge question mark, and he's going to have. A lot of people don't think this. We hate Jason Garrett. I think he was a fraud, for so many years.
Good offensive coach.
But what'd you say?
Good offensive coach.
But let's not discount that. He might kind of neuter Judge's kind of ability up there too, being such an experienced head coach, and now Judge is going to be looking over his shoulder at him the whole time.
Question coming from Doug Anderson, the empty stadium question. Who quarterbacks do you think actually can thrive in that environment? He brings up guys like Mayfield, Haskins, Burrow, I guess. Listen, to be blunt, Cleveland's been pretty empty for a couple years, so I don't necessarily know there's going to be a lot of difference. There's been a lot of empty seats there. Been a lot of empty seats in Carolina, a lot of empty seats in Washington. So they've been kind of like empty buildings. I don't really know. I don't know.
I don't know if it's going to have a big effect on really any of them. To be honest with you, I don't think anything affects Joe Burrow. I think that dude is one of the coolest, calmest guys I've ever seen play the position. He reminds me, his attitude anyway, reminds me of number 12 in Green Bay. Nothing ever gets him rattled. He's always very calm. He feels like he's always in control. If I had to say one, I'd probably agree with Haskins. And again, I think Haskins needs every advantage he can get, period, because he stinks. But I don't know if it's going to have that much of an impact, really.
I don't know the attendance numbers off the top of my head, but I'm sure Washington had a good crowd. They have a good following.
They were selling tickets for $5. I saw. And you couldn't.
I thought we gave $5.
Yeah. So and then Haskins also went to Ohio State. So I don't know. It might be somebody else, to be honest with you. That maybe Tua. Miami does not draw anything. If he get, it could be one of these young quarterbacks that he didn't mention that has to work out some kinks in their game a little bit. It could be David Carr gets the dumpster fire out in Las Vegas.
Derek Carr. Question number 3. Of the 32 current NFL head coaches, 22 of them have been hired since 2017. Obviously, the NFL stands for not for long. So, which team is most likely to have an opening after the season, a head coach? I will start with Ryan Haverman.
I think it's going to be the Jags, and I think it's just a shame because they're going to win maybe 2 games if they're very lucky. That team is god-awful. There is very little talent at any level. I personally don't know if Gardner Minshew has the arm and the athletic ability to play in this league for that long. I think the Jags are going to be so bad that they'll have no choice but to move on from not only their head coach, but from maybe multiple members of the staff and players.
Yes.
For me, it's Matt Patricia in Detroit. I don't think he should have been brought back for this year. I understand Matt Stafford getting hurt last year kind of derailed the season, but this guy is a defensive-minded head coach, and his defenses have not been good. Period. So then what are you there for? What is he there for? So for me, if they struggle again, if they don't make the playoffs, if they don't at least finish like 500, I think he's got to go.
Good point.
Yeah. Tony?
That's an interesting question. Because you kind of have to predict failure. I wouldn't be surprised if Kingsbury is gone if Arizona just kind of implodes. I could see every year you have these. Cleveland 2 years ago, they were the hot team. They had all these expectations coming in. Arizona seems to be that team. This year I've seen somewhere like, Arizona might be a playoff team. I don't think Kingsbury actually has the chops to turn them into a playoff team for a quick time. Another he doesn't. It might be Belichick last year if he has to deal with Cam Newton all fucking season. I'll tell you that. His head might just explode. He might have a stroke or a heart attack or something like that. Having to deal with Sam, walking into the press conference, looking like the lunch lady or something.
Brandon.
For me, it's Adam Gase. I mean,
Yeah, him too.
yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have a good relationship with his players. They bring in Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't have a good relationship with Le'Veon Bell. He never wanted him there. Jamal Adams basically called him out personally and said, "I don't want to be there with Adam Gase." I mean, if the Jets don't make the playoffs, which I don't see that happening, just the roster is not good enough, I don't see Adam Gase keeping his job. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that Adam Gase is looking for a job by the end of the year.
And it ain't going to be a head coaching job.
Yeah. For me, I thought of everybody you mentioned. I didn't think Kingsbury, Quig, only because I think he's tied so much to Kyler Murray that I think he has.
I don't expect it, but I wouldn't be surprised if something off the wall kind of happened like that.
I just think, like, of all the coaches, for whatever, I mean, they're like this. Like, I think that they'd be throwing, if it were to happen, they'd be throwing in the towel on Kyler after a year or two. I think it's hard to do that. I think he has a little more leeway as a result, personally. But for me, I think it's absolutely Dan Quinn in Atlanta. I mean, this team has underperformed since they gave him a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. And that team's been nowhere since. They don't look very good now. I think he's supposed to be a defensive guy. That team is atrocious defensively in a division that continues to get more and more difficult. Now with Tampa Bay in there as potentially another contender. Carolina will get there eventually, and the Saints are still the Saints for now. I don't think you can really look at Atlanta and say that's a playoff team. So eventually, Arthur Blank's going to find the pictures that Dan Quinn has and delete them, and then he can fire him because there's really no reason why he's still employed. But everybody's got. I mean, I agree with Gase. I agree with Patricia. I mean, I agree with everybody. There's going to be, I think, more firings this year at the end of this year than there were at the end of last year. There were 5. So I mean, I think the number is going to increase.
Do you think that with the lack of an offseason, some front offices say we'll give our guy another year, or do you think that they are quicker to pull the trigger on guys if they don't have successful seasons?
It's fair.
Expectations depends on expectations.
Yeah.
Stability does mean a lot, what they want to do, but I think expectation is what it leads to. Like, Dan Quinn's been down in Atlanta because no one gives a shit about the Atlanta Falcons and if they win or not, to be honest with you. They just want to see Julio go catch some balls. They want to see Matt Ryan throw, and that's pretty much Arthur Blank wants to throw cricket. It's fan base to have expectations.
The question is, will General Manager Bill O'Brien fire head coach Bill O'Brien? I don't think he's going to do that.
Thing when I read that in the comments, Brian.
It's kind of like, will the owner Jerry Jones fire the GM Jerry Jones? Probably not.
Yeah.
We'll see there, but that's another team, with some issues for sure. Burning question number 4: which starting quarterback is under the most pressure to succeed? And I will kick this off with Brian Hess.
Oh, I'm going to go with Brian Attard's favorite NFL quarterback, Dak Prescott. And here's why. So he's playing this year under the franchise tag. He's watching these teams pay these quarterbacks this offseason to the tune of $40 million per year. And basically, if Dak wants a new contract, he's going to have to play well. And not only play well, but take this team far into the playoffs. Now, listen, they underachieved last year, all right? But the scapegoat of Jason Garrett is gone. The roster's there. McCarthy's the coach. If this team underachieves, it will be because of Dak Prescott. Simple as
So
that.
you think Garrett was a scapegoat?
No, I'm saying Jason Garrett was the scapegoat last year. But if they underachieve this year with that roster, and now you've replaced the coach, so if they underachieve, it's going to be because of him.
It's got to be.
Todd?
I'm going with the team on my hat right now. Aaron Rodgers is under a ton of pressure in Green Bay. I don't think many people realize it if you're not a fan of the Packers, but it's clear coming from camp that, all the talk is how great he looks and he's so comfortable in this offense. They've won one Super Bowl since he's been there. He's been if you talk to anybody, he's been the best quarterback or one of the top 3 quarterbacks for the last 10, 15 years. At this point, now they have his heir apparent down there or up there in Green Bay. So I think that it's very important that he wins or at least gets to a Super Bowl this year or at worst next year, or they're gonna move on from him. He's done. He's gonna be playing probably in Chicago or Minnesota or one of those places.
You Green Bay fans have to cut Aaron Rodgers some slack for only winning one Super Bowl.
I get it. Listen,
them things are not hard to come by. I mean, just ask the Eagles fans. It took them 63 years before they won one.
So I'm one of the biggest Aaron Rodgers apologists because if you look at I think I did this last year when a couple of the guys were talking about how it's ridiculous he's only got one Super Bowl. I brought up his losses in the playoffs. Bro, you got to see it's 51 given up, 48, 38, 35. What are you going to do? You're crazy.
I'm going to go a different take on this question. And I don't necessarily think it's team pressure. For me, it's Cam Newton. Because if Cam Newton can't succeed in New England, he's not going to get another job. Period. Right. He's done. If you can't be coached by Bill Belichick to some semblance of success, no one is going to take a second chance on you, a third chance even at this point. You have all the off-field type stuff, which is completely – he does it on his own. He brings it on himself. All the weird hairdo and dresses he wears and looks like he's Billie Jean when he goes to a press conference, and it's ridiculous. He is in a position now where all the pressure on the world is on him to prove that he's not done, because if he doesn't prove that, then he is done. That's my opinion. I think he's under a lot of pressure to do very well.
Yeah.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'm going to go with same with Hobb and point to my hat. I think Carson Wentz is under a ton of pressure. Now, he stayed healthy last year in the regular season, played all 16 games, got into the playoffs with a not very good roster at all. But look, Carson, they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. Call it what you want, insurance, whatever. They drafted him. If Carson goes down for any period of time and Jalen steps in, there's going to be some real turmoil, certainly in the media, which we know the way the Philadelphia media is. It's very forceful. He's got to win in January. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to win a playoff game or two. I think Carson Wentz is under a ton of pressure. And he said today he has the most explosive weapons he's had in his 5 years. I do agree with that. I think that's going to help him. They have some guys who fit him and his style of play. Now, Rager's hurt, might not play week 1, but he has to win. He has to stay healthy. Now, if he stays healthy, like I thought last year, I thought if he was healthy in that playoff game, they could have won it. And I think we're looking at it a bit differently. They probably don't draft Jalen Hurts, but he needs to stay healthy, and he needs to win in January.
Quickly?
Oh, I think the obvious answer here is the GOAT, Thomas Patrick Edward Brady down in Tampa Bay. I mean, the only reason why anybody's talking about Tampa Bay is, like I mentioned earlier, is his signing. But now he has the expectations of actually having the win down there. And he's won in New England, and he was very successful. But, he didn't look at his greatest last year at all. So how quickly they could mesh. I mean, imagine Tampa Bay comes out and they're 1-3, 1-4. Obviously, there's no fear of him being replaced, but it's going to be a shit show, everywhere.
It'll get ugly there.
What's that?
It'll get ugly there. They start out 1-3. And people don't realize how good that division is. People are just saying, "Oh yeah, he's going to go 12-4." Dude, he's going to lose at least 3 or 4 games in that division, minimum, with the teams that they have to play. It's it's.
And I actually have two other guys for this too, and it's all about expectations. One, you have your reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson just destroys the league again this year. I think he's really going to, show and that he actually deserved the MVP award and all the hype was real. But a lot of people are down on him. There's people saying, "No, they're going to figure him out," and he's, only going to be a running quarterback and all this other stuff, like all this. They don't believe really his MVP season, what they saw, And the other guy is Cam Newton. I like that answer too. The other guy is Patrick Mahomes. Super Bowl victory, MVP, which wasn't deserved, and $500 million. $500 million. Now you have expectations. Now you're under the pressure to succeed.
No Super Bowl hangover. Can't have that with that contract.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there's that. So I mean, yeah, none of these guys are in fear of losing their job, but I think that's the pressure. Really, expectations, determine pressure.
You mentioned expectations. How about Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, this is a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, and he did not play well.
He didn't play well the whole
in that game. Yeah, and how much does Kyle Shanahan trust him? He took the ball out of his hands. He took the ball out of his hands in the first 2 playoff games. They ran the ball a ton. Now I know it was successful, but then even in the Super Bowl, they ran the ball and took the ball out of his hands. And when they needed him to make one throw, he failed. I think there's some pressure on Jimmy G. And there was rumors that they called New England to get a trade for Tom Brady. So they were already thinking about potentially moving on to upgrade at that position. You don't do that if you have that much faith in him.
No, Brandon, I was looking at Jimmy G because I don't think he played well at all. But if you look at the 49ers' early schedule, they play Sister Mary's of the Blind. They play the Miami Dolphins. They're going to come in and play power football. And
they have Clemson's schedule?
What's that?
Pretty much.
They have Clemson's schedule to start?
Clemson's, yeah, exactly. So especially this year. So I mean, the pressure is going to not be there when they start out 5-1 or 6-1 because it's an extremely easy schedule. So I think that's going to serve him well. I mean, they open up with the Cardinals, the Jets, the Giants, the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Rams. I mean, then you go to Patriots. All games that they'll probably be favored in. Probably
they should be, by double digits.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if he's caught banging another porn star or something like that, shout out Kia Maria. I mean, that's what else,
Well, it's funny. It's not a great example, but like these guys get paid sight unseen. Like Brandon Cooks went to the Rams and got a deal before he put a Rams hat on. And it's the same kind of thing. Like they signed Jimmy G before he even played for them, not knowing what the fit was or anything like of that nature.
But we just talked about earlier that they should have did the same thing with Jalen Ramsey. They should have signed him prior to him playing a game with the Rams, and they would have saved a ton of money yesterday.
Well, I think the only difference there is Ramsey had proven himself as an all-pro and an elite player, and Garoppolo had, 4 starts prior to the Niners signing him. So I think that there's a little difference there.
I just think it's like the quarterback version of the New England coaching tree. Like you just expect him to be good because he came out of New England because he went through the system there. I don't know. I didn't like it when they signed him. I mean, I know they went to a Super Bowl and everything, but he's not why.
Matt Castle
I think it's the reason they lost.
Yeah, he does have a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
On the alternate side of this is question 5. Ryan Hoffermail, which starting quarterback is most at risk of being benched?
I got to go back to my notes on this one. I mean, I know we talked about this, but I forget who I put. Oh yeah, this is an easy one. That's right. It's Trubisky, and he's not at risk of it. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. Nick Foles is waiting in the wings. The only reason Trubisky is still technically the starter is because of where he was picked and what they traded up to get him and all that stuff. They're going to give Trubisky one last shot. He is going to prove once again that he's no more than a backup or a third stringer. And then he is going to give way to Nick Foles, who is going to do what Nick Foles does and probably be a pretty good quarterback for a few games. And then that's going to be it.
The Packers question here from Andy Van Dries. As a big Packers fan, it's hard to see the Bears always just a decent quarterback away from being a real threat in the NFC. Just your take on that.
That's true. They've. I mean, since I've been a Packers fan, which is since I was a baby, they've always been a great quarterback away from being a dynasty almost. They always seem to have a good defense. They always seem to have a good running game. They always seem to be able to do things that Green Bay's never been able to do. But the difference with them is they don't have a guy to go out and win a ball game. They don't have that. And that's been true since Jay Cutler was there. And I remember when they got Cutler, I thought, well, here we go. The Bears are going to run this division for a few years, and the Packers just owned him. Now they own Trubisky. They own Cousins. They've been very lucky. You got to say the Packers have been very lucky.
I'm trying to get this image. I'm trying to get it very quickly because in regards to your comment about Jay Cutler, I think you'll enjoy it if I can get it to work. Where are you? It's the software likes to go there. Here you go. One of my favorites. It's a Cutler thing. For me, Justin actually echoed it. I think it's Tyrod Taylor in LA, and I say that because of the rookie quarterbacks who aren't starting, he's the one that's at most tenuous holding his job. I think the Chargers have a down year, and I think when they lose, if they're 0 if they're 1-3, 2-4, whatever, at some point you're going to say, listen, let's see what the hell we got in the kid that we just spent 6th overall pick on in the draft. And I think he's going to – I mean, I see there being like a deja vu of what happened with Baker in Cleveland where he's just keeping the seat warm until the kid takes over because the kid's a better quarterback. I'm not a Tyrod guy at all. I don't know anybody who is, but to me, I think that's just waiting.
I do know someone who is, Brian, and that's Anthony Lynn. I mean, he said this before he even drafted Herbert that he loves Tyrod Taylor and that's going to be his guy. And if you look at the early season schedule that he has, it's very winnable games. I mean, if they go 3-3, 4-3, I mean, yeah, I mean, Tyrod is keeping their seat warm, but at the same time, don't discount him. I think Lynn's affinity for him is something that can't be overlooked.
Your thoughts? Oh, good.
I'm with Hav. It has to be Trubisky. I mean, Nick Foles is making too much money. I mean, they traded a draft pick for him. They could have signed Jameis Winston. They could have signed Cam Newton for significantly less money. They traded a draft pick and paid Nick Foles some big money to come in and play quarterback. I think he's the starting quarterback by October 1st, if not sooner. And Ryan Pace made the mistake, and he drafted Trubisky. It was a mistake. He has to move on. If I was the Bears, I would have already moved on from Trubisky. And I would not be starting him. I think Foles gives you a better chance to win, and I'm not a big fan of Nick Foles really at all. So I think Trubisky is the obvious choice. I don't think he makes it to week 4.
I pretty much agree. I think they start out 0-3, 1-3, 1-2, something, and I think that offense looks terrible, and that's it. Because you're going to get pressure because the Bears aren't bad. I mean, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but they definitely can sniff the playoffs, especially with the expanded field. I think that you're not going to get that patience from Bears fans and management and all that. As soon as he starts to really struggle and puts 2 or 3 of those struggle city games together, he's going to be out.
And it's not like they don't have any weapons. I mean, Tariq Cohen,
Exactly.
David Montgomery, Allen Robinson's a very good player. He was, really good season last year with Trubisky and Chase Daniel. You bring in Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet. I mean, they have some weapons there. So there's no excuses not to be able to at least be competent. And I don't think Trubisky is even that.
I think we were all surprised on last, I guess it was Friday when Trubisky was even named the starter. The same positives that got him, such a high draft pick. I mean, the kid is, athletic and does all the things that'll wow you in practice and in the combine. And he's, he's got the makings of a star quarterback, except when he throws the football, which
Right.
tends to be a prerequisite, right?
That's a problem.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it isn't. But I mean, I think Trubisky is really one of the obvious answers. I seen somebody mention Cam Newton. I think that's a great suggestion as well. Belichick and them guys love Stidham. And if Cam falters, and listen, I honestly, if Stidham was healthy in this preseason, I think he would have a really good shot at surpassing Cam even before the season started. So I think that you have to kind of lean towards that. These other quarterbacks, like you look at Tua down in Miami, we mentioned Tyrod Taylor earlier. I mean, they're, I think Fitzpatrick gets supplanted, but he's kind of expecting it. Your boy Aaron Rodgers is not expecting it, and he is not going to go down swinging. If you're talking about the early quarterbacks.
Yep. So,
other quarterback battles. Chucky has a hard on for Mariota once he gets healthy. I think David Carr, if that's not going right for whatever reason, he might have to look over his shoulder. Trying to think who else out there might have some issues. Dak, Andy, the Red Rifle.
I think you just gave Brian a hard on.
I really want to
be able to know.
I really want to see QB1 in Dallas get a shot. And listen, he's been good when he's had talent around him. He has been. He just hasn't had talent around him. I mean, they could do a lot worse. I mean, listen, I'll tell you what. If you had to start ranking backup quarterbacks in the league, he's got to be top 5. No, if not higher.
It's probably number 1. I mean, and not counting the rookies. I mean, Justin Herbert might be higher, but Andy Dalton's probably number 1. Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles is.
Yeah, you'd have Foles in there for sure.
Yeah, Foles would be number 1 just because he won.
A caliber team, I think Dalton is a perfect fit for a team like Dallas, or maybe even behind like Mahomes or somebody like that could actually go in there, behind a great offense and a great team and perform. I think that's what you'd look for in a backup.
Question number 6, name a team in both the NFC and the AFC who did not make the playoffs last year that will this year. And I'm actually going to ask for 2 because when I wrote this question, I forgot that a new team's getting in. So it's actually easier to get in the playoffs this year than it was a year ago. Brandon, I'll start with you. Give me 2 teams in both conferences that are going to make the playoffs this year that didn't last year. And you can even say because there's a seventh team even. That's fine.
So AFC, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Ben is back and it's a loaded defense, and also the Indianapolis Colts. I think the addition of Phillip Rivers with that offensive line, I think you're going to see the best of what Phillip Rivers has left. They have some decent weapons. You added Jonathan Taylor. I think the Colts make it into the playoffs in a weaker division. I actually think they win that division. And then the NFC, to me, it's obvious with Tampa Bay. I think they get into the playoffs. And the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there's too much talent with 7 teams making the playoffs for them not to get in. And if they don't get in, it's because of the quarterback, like Tony mentioned earlier, and like we've mentioned for endless times. But Dallas gets into the playoffs. There's just too much talent there for them not to.
We actually have the same agreement on all 4 teams, so I'll just add a little color to that. I completely agree Tampa's in. I completely agree that the Steelers get in. And the Steelers get in not because of the 7th team, because they're going to get in on their own, and they deserve to be there on their own. That defense last year was phenomenal. If they get this much offense, they're going to be really, really good. And I think Ben will be fine. So I think them. And again, I think the Colts also are a good contender to win that division down there. I mean, I guess the sleeper team for me, I think Quig, you said the opposite of this. I think Arizona's got a decent shot because of the seventh team. I think.
What did they do with their offense? I mean, their defense. I'm sorry. One of the worst defenses in the league last year.
It is.
Can't fucking play every position.
No, but I think that the offense is going to be a lot better this year. I think another year, you add DeAndre Hopkins, which is a legitimate outside guy for Kyler to throw to. I think Kenyon Drake's an upgrade over David Johnson. And I think that they've done quite a bit on the offense. Defense ain't that great. I agree. I'm not saying this team's going to win this team's going to go 11-5, but I can see them sneaking 9, and 8 might get you there. 9 probably will. So that's why I'm saying I think they can sneak in if things break.
What I was mentioning about the Arizona hype. It's way too much hype on Arizona. I put a good money on them not making the playoffs, even with
they do it. They do have some high level talent on each level of their defense with Chandler Jones, who's an elite pass rusher. Patrick Peterson, I know he's getting older.
Budda Baker.
He's still an elite player. Budda Baker, and then Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons, who he's wait and see, obviously. as a rookie, he can
But
do
they
it
were there
all.
last year, Brandon. Except Isaiah Simmons, they were all there last year. I mean, they do what they do, but teams. First of all, we haven't even mentioned Seattle once this whole fucking show. I guess because we're not, there's no QB cons or anything like that. They're not better than Seattle. They're not better than the 49ers. Okay, that's so right now you're talking about you're predicting a team that's third in their division at best to make the playoffs. I just don't see it happen. I just think it's there's too much out there.
Well, I think because of the 7th team that gives them a shot.
So you say 3, and actually somebody earlier, like I mentioned earlier, somebody said that whole NFC West will make the playoffs this year, which I don't. I just think they play each other too many times. And it can't even happen. So
I don't think the Rams have a shot in hell. I don't.
Yeah.
I think they're the clear 4. I think me and Brandon went. Quigley, your teams.
I'm trying to think. Well, I think Tampa and Indianapolis are 2 obvious answers. Indianapolis has probably the best defensive and offensive line combination, in the NFL, and that's pretty much how you win. Phillip Rivers gives them a better shot, and even if he gets hurt, Jacoby Brissett isn't horrible. He's not, as you saw last year, he's kind of competent. That was kind of thrown into a crazy situation. But the Rivers upgrade, if he doesn't make too many mistakes, Indy, Tampa Bay. Let's see who else. We won 2. Dallas, I think they take the NFC East, so they'll be back in because it's every other year. Somebody else new wins the NFC East. I do like the Pittsburgh pick. The only thing I'm worried about Pittsburgh is Ben Roethlisberger's durability. He lost weight, which is pretty a good thing, but that elbow doesn't really doesn't really have too much padding in it. So if Ben's healthy, he would be in it.
And so Tampa Bay's in. Brady gets hit, but he's really great. He likes Rodgers. He go with Brady. You have to choose between the 2. Doug Anderson, no O-line. Guess he means Arizona there. Justin says Tampa, obviously, and Arizona. And I think that from a dark horse perspective, like a team that isn't really like a clear team, I think that's where I'm coming from with Arizona. But
it's a popular pick, and just like I did with Cleveland last year, I'm fading Arizona. Take them, total degenerate show. Watch the gambling show for these guys. Take Arizona not to make the playoffs.
Hav, you're 4.
Well, mine was obviously the Bucs and Cowboys as well, but I'm going to throw a different one instead of. I'll just throw another one because let's face it, the Bucs and Cowboys are making the playoffs. But I think another team we haven't talked about at all that I think is going to surprise a lot of people is the New York Giants. I really believe that they have a lot of talent on that team, at least offensively. I know defensively they're going to struggle. But I think that the Eagles are going to take a couple steps back. I think I don't think that's a hot take. So, they're going to be able to beat up on them a little bit. They're going to be able to beat up on Washington a little bit. They're going to be able to win some games. Daniel Jones is getting better. They have a pretty decent receiving core. I think that they have a shot with that added team to get in. And then on the AFC side, my dark horse, the obvious one you guys said, the Colts are getting in. The Steelers are probably getting in. The other one that I like that has been on the tip of my tongue for 2-3 years now is the Browns. I think that they're right there. They're so close, and maybe Stefanski is finally that guy to get them over that hump and get them to that 9 wins, 10 win plateau. I mean, they have the talent on both sides of the football. There's no excuse anymore. You got to at some point get it done. I think that they find a way this year.
Now, Ryan, as far as your Giants pick, doesn't Nate Soldier and that O-line issues that they're having there, that doesn't scare you a little bit?
It definitely does. But when you're talking about a guy like Daniel Jones is athletic enough to get out of the pocket, and you have the ultimate, the guy who's going to keep that pass rush at bay with Saquon Barkley. If you want to fly upfield, they're going to run right where you were coming upfield. They're going to run off tackle all game. And, I think that they're going to find a way to win 7 to 9 games. And with the added team, 7 to 9 games is that puts you in the discussion. So I'd take them as my dark horse. If we're talking who's going to get in, I had to bet on it. The Bucs and the Cowboys. It's pretty simple. That's easy money. Parlay that shit.
Parlay that.
I could.
On the flip side, name one team in both conferences who made the playoffs last year that will not this year. And Hob, I think you're going to echo me with this one. I think the Eagles will make the playoffs this year. I do think they take a couple steps back, and I'm not going to get off this thought that I have that, you know, the coaching of the Super Bowl winning team and the brains behind it took a flight to Indianapolis and never looked back. And I'm not a Doug guy. I think he did a great job for a couple of weeks with Nick Foles when he had to. I'll give him full credit for that. They've not been the same team since. They've got an aging team in a lot of spots that you don't really think about, but they're deceptively old, and it's becoming like apparently old now. They got salary cap problems coming. I think there's a really good chance Fletcher Cox is in his last year as an Eagle because of how much money he makes. And frankly, just they have to figure it out. I think they don't make the playoffs this year. And I think for me, the team that I'm most concerned about in the AFC from who was in last year to this year, I think it's Houston. I mean, I look at Houston's schedule and it is not easy at all. And I think the fact that the Colts are going to be better, but just by pure give me average quarterback play, that team's a playoff team. They didn't have it last year. Tennessee, I think Jacksonville sucks, but I look at those four teams and I find it very hard to pick Houston any higher than second. I don't think that gets in the way the AFC is. So for me, I think Houston's on the outside looking in.
Yeah, my two, the AFC would
Andy, thank you we appreciate the comment there. Give us a like on the page. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, in the AFC for me would be Tennessee. I just don't trust Tannehill to repeat what he did last year. And I think they're one-dimensional offensively. I think Derrick Henry has to be able to run the football. And if you're a defense, you have a whole offseason to really evaluate how to stop the Tennessee Titans. It's stop Derrick Henry. And if you can stop Derrick Henry, they don't have the play action. They don't have an offense. I think Tennessee is very one-dimensional. I don't think they win, 6 or 7 games. And I think Houston's better than Tennessee for the simple fact that they have Deshaun Watson. Tennessee doesn't. And I know Houston lost DeAndre Hopkins, but they did add Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. I know it's not quite DeAndre Hopkins, and they did replace DeAndre Hopkins with something, competent. So I think Houston's slightly better. And the NFC, it's the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers is still in the division.
And he still owns them.
Yes, for sure. Kirk Cousins 6-29 in his career against winning teams. So he still has not proven that he can consistently beat good teams. They lost Stephon Diggs, and Danielle Hunter is out for the year. Now I know they added Yannick Ngakoue, but
that defense has lost a lot of players.
And Griffin.
Yep. And
Griffin. You lose Griffin Hunter and you replace him with Ngakoue, but I still think Hunter is a very underrated player, and that's a huge.
And by the way, we'll see how good Ngakoue is when he's in a city where you're supposed to win. You can look great with a terrible team. Jalen Ramsey did it. Leonard Fournette did it. All these guys did it. When the Jags were terrible, but they were terrible. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it. Yeah. It's easy to be a great player in Jacksonville. Let's see you now go to a team that has some expectations and see how you do. I'm not sold on Ngakoue. I'm really not. I haven't been. So we'll see.
And I don't trust Kirk Cousins without Stephon Diggs. I think there's real regression there offensively.
Tom?
Well, what was it, 2017 that Jacksonville Jaguars were actually a decent playoff team?
Yeah,
so.
Andy makes the point right there. They're a player or two away from the Super Bowl, just a little over a couple years.
They should have been.
I think your take with Houston is way off. I mean, if you're looking at their offense, they're depending on Will Fuller, who's yet to play a full season in the NFL. They're looking at Brandon Cooks. They're looking at David friggin' Johnson.
Yeah.
I think there's just going to be too many injuries to pile up. And yes, Tennessee stopping Derrick Henry is obviously the key. But one thing with Tennessee, though, you have to understand that they threw early in games, and then they made that big play downfield with A.J. Brown. That was what they did to start the games. It wasn't like they were just coming out there and trying to beat you up with Derrick Henry. They were throwing the ball downfield, and they did an amazing job. Tannehill was phenomenal in the play action. So, I think that they still have a nice advantage over Houston, and I think Houston is actually the obvious answer here in the AFC. NFC, that's going to be a little different here. So who do we have? Yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to have a little tough time scoring. I think offense. I think you're going to watch Darius Slay, just burn that money on fire as it gets toasted. They already have it's just what did the Eagles do in the offseason? They wasted a second-round pick on Jalen Hurts, and I'm not saying that he's not going to become a great player, but now Rager's hurt. Now where's your offense coming from? They didn't address any of the needs. And you have Carson Wentz who one of his biggest things is he might try to do too much on certain plays because he has to. I just think that eventually it fizzles out. And if everybody's saying that, some of these other teams like Arizona, and here's the other thing too with the NFC East, they play the AFC Central. That means that they got to see, Pittsburgh and they got to see Baltimore and
AFC North.
NFC North. I'm sorry. What did I say? Central?
Yeah.
No, I'm old. There was never a North 20 years ago. So I think they're tough schedule for them, and they're playing a first place schedule too. So I think they might slip.
Moving on to question 8, I think we're all going to agree on this. Just my gut tells me we're all going to agree on this. I think we're all going to say Jacksonville. Anybody going to say not Jacksonville
or the Jets? I think those are the two.
I was going to say, give me a second team that might give it's not Jacksonville. You think it might be the Jets?
I think it very possibly could be the Jets.
Washington.
Or Washington. That's a good one too.
That's who I was going to lean to, even higher than Jacksonville. Because I think Jacksonville, for better or worse, they do have some kind of offensive game plan, and I think Gardner Minshew is going to go out there and put up some points and win some games. Now he's not great by any means. He's not to build the franchise around, but I just think Dwayne Haskins is just absolutely awful. He's going to go out there and give some effort, and he's going to fire up his team. He's going to try to win. Haskins, I don't think has the leadership ability or the talent to actually do that.
Listen, if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't play okay, that Carolina team, I think, is going to have some problems. And it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world for that to happen, by the way. So let's just call it what it is. If they get this local kid, Trevor Lawrence to show up there, that's going to be a franchise-changing moment. So for a lot of these teams, again, we can have these discussions all day long about tanking and is it worth it? Guess what? This year, it's absolutely worth it if you don't have a quarterback. And even if you do, you can trade out of that spot for a haul and fix your team for the next 5 to 10 years. So again, I know they signed Bridgewater. I know their offense runs through McCaffrey. You have a new coach in there who blew guys out that are no longer there anymore. It would not be the worst thing in the world for Carolina to go 1-15. That's all I'm saying. And if Bridgewater if he's not what he was in New Orleans, that absolutely can happen. And I think it'd be the best thing for him, frankly.
I just don't see tanking in the NFL is different. And I know, Brian, you said a lot of times how, Miami cost themselves by winning a meaningless game. And you're right, they did. But the NFL mentality is a little bit different than what the NBA goes through and stuff like that, because you can't go out there and half-ass playing football or you're going to get physically hurt. And these guys are out there. So in the beginning of the season, the Dolphins, we'll use them as an example last year, were absolutely horrendous, internal fighting, nonsense, blah, 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 everything. The players weren't given entrance because the culture was to lose. And somebody like Minkah Fitzpatrick wasn't with it. So he was kind of, not trying to do his thing. As soon as he goes to Pittsburgh, obviously, he's a star player. So the mindset of tanking in the NFL isn't really the same as your typical basketball. And these teams, they're going to go out and play hard. I mean, next man up kind of mentality, and it's a little bit different animal. I don't see Bridgewater out there, to go out there and tank unless he gets hurt again, which No,
I'm not saying they should. I'm not saying they should try to do it, and I never say you should actively try to lose games. What I'm saying is if you're not
tanking is, that's what the term tanking.
No, but maybe you don't. As a fan, you can understand they are better off in this case getting a better pick. And I think,
absolutely. I mean, listen, McCaffrey could be shut down by week 8. On a phantom injury, or something like that. They're err on the side of precaution, obviously.
You want to hear a team that none of us have mentioned, No, I agree. If I had to bet, I would pick Jacksonville because I think they're going to be terrible. New England. I do not think they're going to be very good. Belichick's collecting draft picks.
Well,
8 players opted out. They didn't sign any relevant free agents. Cam Newton stinks. I think New England's going to be very bad. And if they're not at the number 1, they could be in that 5-6 area and try to move up. I think New England's a team that if it's not Jacksonville, my second choice would be New England.
And that would be done completely on purpose because
That was a 1,000,000,000%.
we've seen the lengths that Belichick will do to win.
Yep.
I just don't think. I think if Tom Brady just retired, then maybe he would do this in 2 years. But I don't think Bill Belichick is going to tank immediately after Tom Brady leaves because then it's just going to be like, okay, it was Tom Brady.
That's true as well. Yeah.
I think you can call it what you want: tanking, restructuring, retooling. They're not trying to win. I find it hard to believe that it's just a coincidence that the one team that loses Tom Brady has 8 players opt out. The only team with that many guys, even close to that, is New England, and they didn't do anything really to upgrade the roster. I think Bill is actively trying to lose and just trying to make it look. And he had an out. The COVID thing wasn't out for him. Guys, don't show up.
But I'll move to question 9 on this because there's a couple of things here. I want to go around the horn with it, but Tom Brady wasn't why they won and lost games last year. That was their defense, and their defense is still there.
Well, Hightower did opt out.
Hightower, Chung, Collins, Van Noy, all gone.
Yeah,
that's their 4 best defensive players.
They lose defensive guys every year that go somewhere else and sign for a lot of money and don't do jack shit where they go, and they're just humming along because the best defensive weapon that the New England Patriots have had for as long as I can remember is Bill Belichick. And coaching is so important in football, his scheme, and he gets the most out of everybody. You're an Eagles fan. Think Chung went to the Eagles, looks like crap, goes to New England, he's a star. They make stars out of guys who can't hack it anywhere else. Their over-under is still like 9.5. So
yeah, I'm going to win some money on that under.
But I call their demise at your own peril. Again, I don't think Cam's very good. I think Bill can get the most out of Cam, who, again, was the number 1 pick in the draft, was an MVP years ago. If anybody can, it's going to be him, and Cam's got a lot to play for. So I actually had them win the division. I have them winning it again because I don't trust Buffalo, and nobody else in the division is going to do it. So either do I trust Buffalo? Now they may win it at 9-7. It won't be any 12-4 and 13-3 like we've seen the Pats do, but it's not like the schedule's that brutal. I'm just telling you right now, there is a reason that number is still. Vegas knows something. I'm just leaving it at that. I think the Pats win the AFC East. Obvious call of Baltimore in the North. Semi-obvious call to me is the Colts in the South. I really like them to take a big step up this year. Not that I think Rivers is very good, but I think Rivers is better than what they had, and the defense is still there. Obviously, it's the Chiefs, and I think that the number 1 seed is Baltimore in the AFC. The NFC side of things going west to east, I think the Niners stay where they are, but Seattle gives them a run. I think the Buccaneers find a way to get ahead of the Saints in the South. I think Green Bay takes it again in the North. And frankly, I think the Cowboys are the best team in the East. I think it's not close. So I think the Cowboys come out of the East. And frankly, division to division, I think the Cowboys have the least behind them. Packers are in a tough division with the Bears defense in Minnesota. The Bucs have the Saints and I guess at least the Saints to worry about. The Niners and the Seahawks, again, if you don't think Arizona is going to beat the Niners, then it's the Niners and the Seahawks. I think the Cowboys have the most wins in the NFC. And I think it's because of the schedule that they have. The Eagles did them a favor by getting them a second-place schedule, not a first-place schedule. The Niners are a first-place schedule. The Packers are a first-place schedule. That's harder. So the Cowboys have a little bit more. Again, the roster's there. The coach is gone. I think they have the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's my personal opinion.
I probably should. I got Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks, and Saints in the NFC. And by the way, when Brandon, you were explaining why you thought Tennessee was going to take a bunch of steps back, if you take what you said about Tennessee and apply it to the San Francisco 49ers, it is identical. identical. I think the San Francisco 49ers have a legit shot to miss the playoffs altogether. You have had an entire season now to watch that Packers film, which is the film you want to watch if you need to stop the Niners, because what Shanahan did was what he did all season: hide Jimmy Garoppolo and just run the ball with 3 or 4 different guys, power football. The NFL, you can't do that shit year in, year out. You just can't do it. So now you're either going to need Jimmy Garoppolo to turn into somebody who he's never been, who we've never seen him be, or you're going to need Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle to literally become superstars that can carry him. And I don't think that happens. That's why I think the Seahawks win that division going away. I think they finish 12-4, 11-5, and I think the Niners fall to 8, maybe 9 wins. In the AFC, I have the Bills, and that's just simply because I think that, kind of alluding to what Brandon said as well, I don't think Bill really wants to win. I don't think he's going to try to lose, but he's not going to really, really go out to win this year either. So I think the Bills, by default, kind of win that. They're a very good football team on both sides of the ball, by the way. Very good football team. Then I have
special.
Really special, and then you couple that with that running game with Singletary, who's turning into a stud. Josh Allen has all the tools you want. You bring in Stephon Diggs. That's a dangerous team. Then the Chiefs. I have the Steelers winning that division at 11-5, and I have them beating out the Ravens by a game. Maybe it's 12-4 and 11-5, or 11-5 and 10-6. I think the Ravens are a team that they're definitely due for a little bit of regression. And like you said, Brian, there's a lot of talent on that Steelers team. And if that defense plays like it did last year and Ben is 70% the quarterback he was, that's an 11-win team all day long. Then the last one, I do have the Texans right now winning that division. And it's simply because I'm not a big believer in the Titans. The rest of the division is whatever, and I think Deshaun Watson gets it done once again, despite Bill O'Brien and his idiocracy.
Brandon, I know your battery's about to head out, so I'll let you go ahead here just in case it does.
Yeah, my NFC picks would Tampa Bay, Seattle, Green Bay, and I reserve the right to change this pick, but I'm going with the Eagles, and then the Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, and Colts. No, it's not pom-poms. It's just I don't believe Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is what he is. I mean, he did significantly better roster last year than the Eagles, and he couldn't win more than 8 games. He couldn't beat a team with a 500 or better record. He beat one of them. It was the Rams. He didn't beat a playoff team. So I think the Eagles still barely at 10 wins win the division. Green Bay, they have the best quarterback. And Tampa Bay, I think, edges out the Saints with 12 wins. I actually think they both win 12 games, but I think Tampa Bay beats them in division record. The Ravens, I think that's a dogfight, Ryan. Like you said, I think it comes down, right to the end. I do think Baltimore regresses. I've heard 16-0. For the Ravens, I don't see that. I think they're more, somewhere 10-6, 11-5, and I think the Steelers are the same. They're in, so I think the games that they play, I think are going to decide that division.
Yep.
The Bills, I think they're clearly the best team in that division. I don't even think it's close. I think it's the Bills and everyone else. And I don't love Josh Allen, but the rest of the roster is too good. They're coached well, and then the Colts, like I said, with Rivers, it's an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett, and makes me sad because I love Andrew Luck, and if he was still there, they're probably a Super Bowl team the last couple of years. But it is what it is. And then Seattle and Kansas City. I mean, there's Seattle. I don't think the Niners win the division. I don't think they make the playoffs. For the reasons you said, I mean, everything you said, Ron, I 100% agree with. And the Chiefs, it's not close. I mean, they're going to run away with that division.
Tone?
All right, well, I'm going to jump in and disagree with the two gentlemen on the bottom here. I think one of the reasons too, I think that we haven't mentioned just briefly, but we're overlooking is the continuity of teams. I think Ravens returned 22 starters from last year, something sick like that. They're not going to miss a beat coming into the season with no preseason games, shortened training camp, stuff like that. I think that's going to be a huge factor, especially early on. The number one seed in the AFC East is going to be determined week 3 against the AFC with Baltimore and Kansas City. I do love Pittsburgh, though, as far as coming back on with that defense and everything like that. So I think Baltimore, Pittsburgh, 1 and 2 in the AFC. Was it North, I guess? AFC East, I do like Buffalo, but I like Miami in the fight that they showed last year to kind of give them, with if Tua could become something special or make some plays, and we all know what Fitzmagic does, it's not going to be a cakewalk like I think people think. I think Miami gives them a little fight for that. I like Indianapolis, like I said, the best offensive and defensive line combination, to edge Tennessee for that division, and Kansas City walks away with the AFC West. Now, NFC West, I do like Seattle to take the division, but I do think 49ers are another strong team. There's still the continuity there. Jimmy Garoppolo has shown the shortcomings, but I'm a big fan of their power running game and their defense and how they've been taking in it, because Bosa off the edge there is just a monster. So can't discount that. NFC South is going to be an extremely fun division. I mean, when you look at Carolina Panthers, you get to watch McCaffrey every week. Tampa Bay Saints, they're going to be fighting. I think Saints do edge Tampa Bay. I think it was Brandon who was spot on saying that they both get about 12 wins. Well, I'm going to choose Saints in the tiebreaker instead of Tampa Bay. Falcons will be putting up some points with that offense, though. The North, that could be a really pretty division, a really ugly division, as we know. But I think the bad man gets it done and carries Green Bay to another playoff shot because he's filled with spite. Still got a really good running game, and with Aaron Rodgers pulling the trigger, I think that Green Bay's in good hands with him. And then NFC East, NFC East. We're gonna go with the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is they have the best roster in the division by far from top to bottom. They don't have the best quarterback probably, but I think this year you're going to see an offense explosion out of Dallas, and I think that's what it's about in the NFL right now.
So easy burning question number 10. Who beats who?
I got
before your iPad dies.
I got Tampa Bay over the Baltimore Ravens. I think Brady is Brady, and with all those weapons which he hasn't had really since 2007. I think it's a match made in heaven with Bruce Arians and those weapons. Gronk's back. They can run the football, and that defense is underrated. With Todd Bowles there, I do think it's not a bad defense by any stretch. And I think the Ravens figure it out in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson gets to the playoffs, but I think in the end, I think Brady and the Bucks withstand.
So Brandon, a question for you. I think you just said that you had the Ravens taking a step back. So you think they?
Well, in the regular season, they were 14-2 last year. I don't think they go 14-2. I think they're more 11-5.
Well, 11-5 with a Super Bowl appearance is much better. So I got you.
It's not like Kansas City last year. Kansas City took a step back in the regular season, won the Super Bowl,
and then go to the Super Bowl, right?
I got you.
Quig?
Yeah, that's the matchup I like too. I think it'll be fun to see. I think, like I said, I really do like the Ravens this year. High on them and on every aspect of things. Tampa Bay is going to be interesting. NFC isn't going to be easy to get out of, just because I think that the parity is there. A lot of new pieces that have to fit together really quick in Tampa Bay. So, that's way too close for the viewers at home.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
I fixed it quickly.
Yeah, I got you. So I think whoever wins the dogfight between Tampa Bay and New Orleans to get out of that division is probably going to be the eventual Super Bowl competitor.
Hoff?
Well, I'm a homer. I'm a homer, absolutely. But to be fair, how long have I been calling the fact that Green Bay would be in the Super Bowl? since last year.
Every year.
Since last year. No, since last year. So I'm going to go Packers, and I think it's going to be the Chiefs. But what I will say is it would almost be poetic for it to be Rodgers against Roethlisberger again, like it was back in 2011 for their last appearance for both of them, which I could see. But I'll go Packers and Chiefs, and I think Rodgers gets it done. I genuinely believe that, and it's coming from a fan, but it's also just coming from just the way that the NFL seems to work, and that's that would be perfect for the NFL.
Now, how pissed off are you though? I mean, I know you didn't like the pick, the Jordan Love pick. Now you have a team that's in Super Bowl contention, and they pretty much just punt their first round pick. It doesn't make any sense.
We've had the same discussion. Like
I know, but just to bring it up, hear them talk about it.
Yeah.
They did, but then, like I said to Brian the other day, I said, who was there for them? Even when they traded up, it was Denzel Mims or T. Higgins. How those guys doing? But these aren't guys that like would have. These are, to me, these aren't guys that would have put you on that next level yet anyway. As you know, you look at wide receivers, rookie wide receivers very rarely, if ever, have that big of an impact. You're looking at them 2-3 years down the road is where they really hit. So it's kind of,
but more of my point is it's improving the team. I don't think Jordan Love's improving the team. There's plenty of talent out there. Yeah. Whatever receivers were last might not, and no one be in love with and all that kind of stuff, because I know Rodgers does like his core receivers, actually, like Lazard.
He's always loved them.
Vidal Scanling, he loves them guys. He really does. So that's fine with them. So, but I mean, there was definitely a player available that could help the team this year, whether offense, defense, even special teams. Jordan Love does not help the team this year, and if they're in Super Bowl contention, maybe they just brought him in to piss him off.
Yeah. See, my bigger issue, and it's been my bigger issue with Green Bay since I've been a fan, is when you're this close and you've been this close, there's never a trade. There's never a huge free agent signing. There's never anything. I mean, you don't think that Odell Beckham Jr. could have been had if Green Bay was really, really aggressive in trade discussions this offseason? I think he could have. I think if you go to Cleveland, you said, listen, we'll give you a second round pick. Give us Beckham. I think that they would have done it. I believe that.
Rodgers would choke out Beckham. That's not his type.
Probably true.
Listen, Rodgers, that's not his type of personality he wants to deal with.
The Hopkins thing. You're telling me when you heard that Bill O'Brien was going to be an idiot and get rid of his best player, you couldn't have gone and said, hey, what can we do? I know you want a running back. How about Jamal Williams? How about our second round pick next year? What do you want to bring a guy like that in? I have more of a problem with that than them, like you guys said, punting the first round pick, because again, rookie wide receivers don't ever do anything. Second year, third year is when you see that leap. So by then, Rodgers could be out of there. So it's.
I've agreed with you at times. I just don't like the message it sends that we're not all in this year. That's all. And I'm not saying it's not that Jordan Love. Jordan Love could be a very good quarterback. I'm taking nothing at all away from him. It's just like I said. I think Aaron Rodgers is great, and if it were me, I would do everything I can to make my roster as good as possible while I have him. Because when at some point I'm not going to, and it's like one of those things where like you don't know what you got till it's gone, and that's been my take the entire time. I would have traded it for Hopkins. I would have traded the one for Hopkins. I would have traded it. I would have went and gotten an established guy.
I probably would have traded the one.
It's hard to do. It's hard to make it work. So I'm gonna say a lot, and then I'm gonna say a little here. I take this any way you want to take it. I really don't care. The Cowboys have had one of the best rosters in the league for a long time, especially recently, and they've done absolutely nothing. And I attribute that largely to the fact of who was at the helm of that team and who was coaching it. That guy is not there anymore. They should have won a lot more games than 8 games last year, and the numbers bear that out. Their offense was very good. Their defense was the same as it was a year before, that they won more than 8 games and won a division. So in a crazy year the way that this is, I think the Cowboys have the easiest road within the division to put up a lot of wins and get home field, and I think that might be the difference in this year specifically. So call me whatever you want to. I think the Cowboys find a way to get to the Super Bowl. However, when they get there, they're going to meet the Baltimore Ravens and lose. because I just think Baltimore is I think Baltimore is the most complete team in the league. Not because I love rushing offense. I mean, Hav, we had this discussion every day. I don't. I'm a pass first guy. Throw the ball 55% of the time and use the run to set it up. Baltimore was the only team in the league that ran for more yards than they passed for last year. Yep. That's probably not going to change adding J.K. Dobbins to your mix of running backs.
No shot. That's the way they win.
Right. And the defense is still the defense. I think they're going to fight. I think they're just pissed off after last year. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're going to find a way to get past not a fat and happy Kansas City team. Don't take it that way. But I think that they've got more juice to them, the Ravens do, than Kansas City might in returning. And I think it's between those two in the AFC. So I think the Cowboys find a way to get out of a muffled, a jumbled NFC and find a way to lose to Baltimore in the Super Bowl. But I think that's my take on it.
Now, Brian, I mean, I see where you're coming from as far as with the Cowboys, and you know, as a fellow Cowboys fan, I hope you're right. But when I look at their schedule, I'm not seeing the ease of schedule like you're saying. I mean, Rams is in a cakewalk. I think that they beat them, but it's not a cakewalk. Falcons, you better score some points.
Yeah, but
at Seattle, an improved Cleveland team. The Giants, we know what they are. You like the Cardinals, who you say is going to be a playoff team. So there's another one.
That's a home game.
You know, so I mean, they still have to be. You know, they're at Baltimore. They play the 49ers. I mean, it's. I don't think 12 wins on that schedule.
They get a couple tough teams at home. I think it is entirely conceivable. Again, calling it. I think they could go 6-0 in the division because I think the Redskins are trash.
Yeah.
The Giants are there yet, and they usually do well against the Giants. And I think the Eagles take a step back. So if you get 6 wins right there, then. Say that you beat the Rams, you beat the Falcons, that's 8. Even if you lose Seattle, you beat Cleveland, that's 9. Arizona, that's 10. Minnesota, that's 11. Cincinnati, that's 12. I see 12 wins.
All right. Well, I hope you're right, bud.
But and that's assuming they don't find. And again, a lot of it is what are you up against?
And then Dak signs for $50 million.
It'd be very nice if Dak says, you know what, I think I've done enough here. If they find a way to win the Super Bowl, maybe Jerry says, you know what, you can leave now.
Yeah,
give you $45 million, which probably won't happen. But again, I look at teams in the league. Again, I agree with you guys. I think the NFC West is a dogfight. I think the NFC South is a dogfight. I think the North is a dogfight. The team that I can conceivably say this is the team's going to win their division is the Cowboys. I think the Packers win the division, but Minnesota's not a bad team, and they're right up their ass. I can say I think the Buccaneers win the division, but the Saints are right there. And I can say that I think the Niners win, but everybody's picking the Seahawks. The one thing
since we're talking about Dallas, though, you know, and you're a Green Bay fan, what's your take on McCarthy going to Dallas?
2-3 years, the Cowboys are going to be at the top of the league. That's what McCarthy could do. What he brings, his message that he brings, the way that he runs his practices, the way that he runs his offense, all that kind of stuff, it gets people excited for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. After that, everything gets stale. He stops changing. He stops making adjustments. So that's when it goes downhill. But as Cowboys fans, you guys should be super excited for the next 2 to 3 years because you're going to be very good.
That's where I think you glitched out a little bit. So you think that McCarthy has the immediate impact, and then it'll fade out after year 3 or 4 or whatever like that.
Then it tails off, definitely.
But this roster is the perfect one to do that with, because by the time he's going to fade off, Zeke's what 4 years, and I mean that's going to be a disaster and a half. And I said that as soon as pen hit paper, the Dak contract is going to be a disaster and a half as soon as the pen hits paper. So you're going to do this now. If you're going to do anything, this is their window. So if you're going to get stale by year 4, I'll take 3 years of that, because trust me, that 3 years is going to be way better than the last 10 that I just lived through, where a lot of elite players, really good guys, got nothing because they were horribly led.
Agreed.
Tyron Smith's career, Tony Romo's career, you could say Des Bryant's career, that O-line was great for so long, they got nothing out of it. I mean, so many guys were wasted under that coach that I just
Tony
think
Romo's entire career.
Having a capable guy can make all of the difference, because I look back at those games last year. I'm not a Dak guy. They lost games they had no business losing. And again, you can't put up 9 points, expect to win. If your defense stops them to 10, you better win those games. Your defense stops at 17, you better win those games. A lot of that was coaching. Tony, you and I went to the Jets game. That was a coaching game. That wasn't even that game. That was coaching was awful that day. And there's so many days you can point to where you say, this is why they lost. And that's a dark cloud. It's like, the birds chirp. Like it's amazing. Like how different I expect that team to be. I know it's just a weird year.
Yeah, well, you need Lyle Collins to get healthy. You need Sean Lee to get healthy. I mean, these guys to get healthy.
Rob, I hear you. They've been a horribly mismanaged team, but those Cowboys teams didn't have talent.
Time out. About 15 years before that, Dallas sucks. I mean, they won the NFC East every other year for the last 5 years. I mean,
but he's saying pre-Garrett. I completely agree. They were horribly mismanaged. It wasn't just coaching; they had no talent. The Garrett teams lost because of Garrett, not because they didn't have talent. Remember the team that was that lost to the Giants in the first playoff game? Patrick Creighton still be running if there was a better play call and a better throw, but that's a Garrett problem. I mean, Bill Parcells took a much worse Cowboys team further than Jason.
We were fooled a little.
I got to get out of here, boys.
All right,
let's wrap it up, then, guys. Yeah. I mean, but Brian, the thing is too with Garrett is he kind of fooled the Cowboys fans last year a little bit, by putting in Kellen Moore and giving him the power and the ability to do things. And at times the offense looked great, and then it seemed like you could see where Garrett just went right and then just grabbed it and pulled the reins back, and then the offense went downhill, and it was frustrating to watch.
Very frustrating to watch. And I just think that him not being there is an underrated difference. And I think unless you watch Cowboys games, you don't realize how different that's going to be. So again, you have
Cowboys over Kansas City. Is that what your pick was?
No, Cowboys lose to Baltimore.
Cowboys lose to Baltimore
because I think in that scenario, Baltimore just runs clock on them, and I just don't think they can recover. They're not going to be a quick strike offense against that kind of a defense. But I think they have a shot to get there. And then who after that? Okay. But that's my
you're right, bud.
I think they find a way. So wow. Tampa Bay just scored a goal with 7.8 seconds left in the game to take a 1-goal lead, and Matt Zuccarello's asshole got this tight. Who
kicked the field goal?
You kicked Nikita Kucherov, who you probably don't know.
I heard of him.
We'll end the show. Actually, before we end the show,
the bad guy in John Wick, I think, right?
Yeah. Before we end the show, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at CrowdPlay, bringing you the show tonight. Love them. Their app is fantastic. Check it out on Apple's App Store, Google Play. It's a free app. You can actually win cash and prizes by predicting the outcomes of real and or simulated sporting events. Here's a little more information about them. CrowdPlay, love those guys. Check them out. Highly, highly recommended. Before we end the show, Tone, give me a hot take. I'll give you a hot take.
A hot take? You just put me on the spot for a hot take.
I had a couple hot takes, right? I had the Pats win in the division without a quarterback. I had the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl. No idea why. But
you put me on the spot here, Brian. I mean, hot takes take a little time to simmer and boil, so you explode a little bit. Hot take. Raheem Mostert leads the NFL in rushing.
Okay. I mean, if they run him, yeah. I mean, the problem is they don't. They run, a bunch of different guys, and that's really
all right.
Hot take for me is something happens where the Bengals end up with the first pick again, and they trade it, and they build a monster of a team moving forward. The worst thing that can happen to the NFL is a team that has a quarterback gets the number 1 pick, because then they're going to get a haul to trade it away.
Yeah, I mean, well, then it's all. But listen, a lot of times we overemphasize first round draft picks, because they actually have to turn into actual quality players. And I think when speaking of the Cowboys, we all talk about the Herschel Walker trade. The key to the Herschel Walker trade was obviously those first round draft picks, but what they did with those draft picks.
Sure.
So I mean, that was the thing that you have to hit on those draft picks. But yeah, you're right.
And I think what we're all going to say, we're all going to say in December, when somehow, some way, the New England Patriots win the AFC East, despite the fact that everybody else is gone, is, as a football fan family, it's going to be pretty much this.
Justin Thomas, after his excellent approach shot, ran all the way toward the back of the green for birdie.
Dude, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Well,
pretty much that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for watching the show tonight. I see a lot of new guys commenting. We appreciate that. Andy, welcome to the Sportsbox family. Make sure you give us a like on the Sportsbox page. Follow us on Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube. Our sports discussion group, Outside the Box, over 4,200 members strong. And we got a question coming in from Willie Rosado. Can he ask you a fantasy football question?
Yeah, buddy, go ahead. What do you got?
Question as I continue my little ad at the end of the show. We are over 12,000 followers on our Facebook page. We appreciate that. We love all of you. Make sure you share it. Check out Crowd Play. Check out the schedule of shows. So we're going to take the rest of this week off, get ready for football. We'll be back Monday night with Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and then we'll kind of get back into the swing of things. Hey, listen, there might even be a Green Room show next Wednesday. Don't hear it from me, but there might be a Green Room show next Wednesday, is what I heard.
What's your question, Will? What's your question?
We'll give him a little 30 seconds there. Yeah, I mean, do you think is it a homer pick by me, or do you think it's legit?
No, I mean, they definitely do have the ability to, you have a stud roster, from every aspect of the ball, except there's questions in the secondary. But you're looking at, like you said, it's quite possible that they had 6 wins. Oh, come on now. That's Melvin Gordon. I'm not a huge fan of Melvin Gordon this year.
That's easy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get the touches in that offense. I think Melvin Gordon is going to have a decent season. Deshaun Jackson is just your home run hitter. If you get bonus points for if you get bonus points for long touchdowns and you think you might be outmatched from your opponent, then maybe take a flyer on Deshaun Jackson. But if you're just looking for stud points, standard points, I'm going with Melvin Gordon.
What's interesting though is it's a good matchup for Deshaun. He usually does very well against Washington. That's a question. That's question one. I would be a little hesitant. I think over the whole season, you're probably right. I mean, I don't dislike Melvin Gordon. It was just a really weird fit where he went because they already had running backs there. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to I want to see how they're going to use him before I say, hey, I like this guy. Would it shock me if Deshaun outscored in week 1? Absolutely not. Yeah. But I think it's more of a matchup play.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's not specified for just a week or actual just.
I think it's a flex play. I mean,
Yeah, so I like if we're going and think in rankings wise, I guess he's including Devontae Parker in that. So I'm looking at Melvin Gordon, Devontae Parker, and then Deshaun Jackson if you're going to rate those players throughout the season. But, yeah, obviously Melvin Gordon has a big question. And Devontae Parker, I think, should have a solid season, especially in that offense down there that they're putting in with the spread flex. So I look at them. But going forward, I'd probably secure Melvin Gordon in there.
All right. So, guys, listen, if you've done this for the first time, like the page, follow us on all the socials. We have our fully extended schedule of shows throughout the week. We're having a lot of fun doing it. Make sure you join the ride. On behalf of Brian Hess, who left the show early, Brandon Gazzara, whose iPad died and Havu had to leave, Quentin Quigley, start to finish, thank you for coming on tonight, sir, and we will see you guys soon. Take care.
All right.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.